Everybody, and I really welcome Professor Barad for consenting to deliver this lecture, the second in the series of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav lecture series of Sardar Patel Institute. And in the previous lecture, I would also like to welcome, and I can see Professor Shah is here. So welcome, sir, and also Dr. Chogule, who's here, and other colleagues, esteemed colleagues and distinguished participants. I can see Dr. Sukhpal Singh is also here. Welcome, sir. So the objective of this lecture series is to basically bring to light the contribution of people, organizations, and institutions that have really not been as celebrated as they should have been. So we at SPIESR thought that why not take up, instead of individuals, let us take up institutions. And especially we being a research institution which is involved in the issues, the socio-economic developmental issues of Gujarat and the region, we thought cooperatives would be a good institutional mechanism that we can talk about. So in the last lecture, we had invited an expert who had talked about the Amul cooperative, and he had in fact made an excellent exposition on the methodological aspects of ascertaining how the membership is behaving and what is the future of milk cooperatives in Gujarat. So continuing with the same series today, we have invited Professor Barad, and I think sugar cooperatives in South Gujarat have been initiated in this region only, and they have also acted as vehicles of socio-economic development of the countryside. And I think today what we would be learning from Dr. Barad is the dynamics of the functioning of the cooperatives, the nitty-gritties of the institutions that they are, and what could be their relevance in the changing times and in the present context of, and how do they usher in developmental lower levels of settlement. Sugar, I must say, is a very, in that way, a crop which may particularly not be suitable for Gujarat's agroclimatic conditions. Yet we are having highly irrigated tracts in Gujarat which are producing sugar. And I think historically, South Gujarat region has been a very important producer, and organizational aspects in terms of getting together producers and value adding to the sugarcane and becoming, some very path-breaking institutions have come up from Gujarat. So I think this is going to be a very interesting lecture. We are expecting Professor Barad. And I was just looking at the website of the Bardoli Sugar Cooperative, and it is interesting that in the post-independence period, Bardoli, besides being the Karmabhumi of Gandhiji and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and his brother, Bardoli created another history by establishing the first farmers cooperative sugar factory in Gujarat. In fact, it was the first ever sugar factory in Gujarat in 1955-56, was named Shri Khedut Sahkari Khand Udyog Mandali Limited. And in fact, since this lecture series is mandated to talk about unsung heroes, Professor Barad, we would also like to have some insights into the selfless contribution of individuals such as Dr. Dayaram Bhai Kunwarji Patel, who is all remembered with considerable gratitude by the farmers of Gujarat and also by the leaders of cooperative movement throughout the country. He was one of the promoters, and he has been the managing director of the cooperative factory ever since its inception. So in fact, it is this factory, sugar factory, is a growing tribute to this person's vision and action. So I think without much ado and without wasting much time, I would really invite now Dr. Barad to initiate his lecture. And sir, I think, Hansa, how much time do we have? Around an hour or so? Or, I mean, there is no really constraint.
Around an hour. Yes.
So after that, follow that, we will, the questions and answer session would follow. So, sir, it is now your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Mehta, and all the professors joining me today in this lecture series of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. In fact, I appreciate the institute, in fact, that you have initiated a lecture series, particularly a very important sector. See, when we are talking about development model of Gujarat, Gujarat is not only about corporates. but the known facts of Gujarat are not known to many people across the globe. Over and above being an industrialized state into pharmaceutical, chemicals, etc., Gujarat is again a very leading state as far as cooperative movement is concerned. And it is not, cooperative movement in Gujarat is not only confined to dairy cooperatives or sugar processing. But if you go back, in fact, the first credit cooperative society, now this is what we call as SPACs. Now these SPACs are primary agriculture credit cooperative societies, which are located in each village. And since long, these PACs, I mean, primary agriculture credit cooperatives are involved into disbursements of agriculture credit. I mean, in other words, in simple words, I'll call it the working capital required for agriculture sector. Because we know that this entire cooperative movement in globally, not only in India, because this is a let me tell you that cooperative movement is not only confined to India or Gujarat. It is a global movement. It emerged into UK. And the starting point was the Rochdale Cooperative Society post-industrial revolution. When the consumers were being exploited, a group of people joined together to set up some consumer store so that they could buy their essential requirements at an affordable price. And that is where the starting point of this cooperative, earlier it was highly unorganized, right? It was very casual and informal, but over a period of time, the cooperative movement moved from the wings of UK, I mean England, to Germany and other parts. And in India, the cooperative movement goes back formally since 1904. And in our country also, the referendum model of agriculture credit, that is what the literature talks about, right? And from there, over a period of time, post-independence of the country, the cooperative model penetrated into dairy cooperative. It is what we call the Amul model of cooperative development. Slowly, in 1950s, the first cooperative sugar mill was set up in Parwaranagar, I mean Ahmedabad district. And this cooperative sugar is yet what you call an exemplary sugar cooperative. So during this span of 40 minutes, basically as I'm assigned the role of talking on cooperatives of sugar cooperatives of Gujarat, I'll talk to on that point and try to add on as much facts and figures as has been expected and what Professor Mehta was recommending. So I'll try my best to add as much points and try to bring out the what we call the relevance of this this sector, cooperative sector. Now, so let me share my screen first. Is my screen visible?
Huh? Yes, sir. It is visible. Yes, sir.
Visible.
Okay. Okay. So the title of the series is going to be.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, you please put on slideshow.
Yes.
Yes, it is okay now.
Right. So the topic that I'm going to talk about is the journey of sugar cooperatives of Gujarat and path ahead. Now, basically, I presume that all the listeners, all the audience who have joined us are from the background from economics or cooperation, right? And somewhere we are aware a little about what this cooperative model is and how it is different from the corporate. So basically, we are aware that post-industrial revolution, there was a lot of exploitations of peasants. That's what we studied in history and economics, the farmers. And the scene of this exploitation was also not very encouraging in our country. The farmers here, whether they were general farmers or whether the farmers were growing some particular crop, all of them, in fact, were exploited very badly through the community, trading community. And that is where we say that the cooperative movement in India was born out of the distress and turmoil that prevailed in the last century. That is just in the later part of the Industrial Revolution. So that is one scene. Second, post independence of the country, and in our 5-year plan, cooperative was seen as a balancing model, one of the important facets in economic development that could play a balancing role between the public sector. Because when we say we were a mixed economy, so public and private and then cooperatives were one of the important, driver of cooperative development. And that is how the story of cooperation, particularly in our country, goes back. Now, many of, as I already told you, as of now, the new generation of business executives and students and professionals and society at a large, many of them feel that cooperatives have nothing to do with the urban development, or it is more relevance for the rural development, etc., etc. But I would like to draw this attention and stress a point that cooperatives are across the domain, whether it is housing cooperative. Probably the people in Gujarat also, not many of the consumers in urban areas may be familiar that Amul is a cooperative model. The majority of the people consume a lot of products of Amul, right, because of its quality and household name. But very few may be aware that Amul is not a corporate brand, it is a cooperative brand, right? So over and above the processing units, it is into consumer stores, because Sahkari Kharid Vech Unsung, for example, that is again a backbone of providing agriculture inputs to rural economy. Similarly, there are different varieties of cooperatives, and therefore cooperatives across the country. I'm not talking about the globe, but in our country also, there are varieties of cooperatives across various products and services, right? Now, if I talk about the cooperatives here, societies in Gujarat, you can see that these are various prominent segments, almost 23 segments, right? Right from cooperative bank, Gujarat State Cooperative Bank, or there are district cooperative banks which takes care of the agriculture credit structure of the state. And when I was talking about tax, the state cooperative penetrates indirectly right to the rural level, village level. Similarly, there are irrigation cooperatives. Once upon a time, there were electricity cooperatives, distribution of electricity, right? Which is nowadays that nowadays they are no more working, right, because of one or the other. But then there are variety of irrigation cooperatives, fishing cooperatives, etc., etc. So if you see in Gujarat, we have almost more than 62,000 cooperatives in different setup, right? Further, if you see the sugar, because we are going to focus, our talk is going to focus on sugar. So sugar is basically grown into two major locations of the state. One is the South Gujarat zone, right, Baroda and above. So Vadodara, Bharuch, and Ankleshwar, and then you move upwards to the periphery of Surat district, the Valsad, the Navsari, etc. That is one belt. And once upon a time, the good quality of sugarcane was also grown into the southern coastal belt of Saurashtra, wherein this place is Veraval and periphery, Veraval, Kodina, Unna, Tallara. There also good quality of sugarcane used to grow. And there was a cooperative sugar factory in Talala. There is in fact, although they are not functional, but there is a cooperative sugar factory which has been incorporated, I believe, at least 30-40 years back in Talala. There is one Kodinar sugar factory. The first cooperative sugar factory in Gujarat was Badoli, as currently Dr. Mehta was highlighting about Badoli sugar factory. In fact, the cooperative sugar factory white revolution that we call of sugar started with Badoli sugar factory, Badoli Pradesh Sahkari Khand Udyog Sangh, promoted by Dayabai Patel and his other supporting members. The second cooperative sugar factory was established in Gujarat way back. I think the registration was way back in 1956 under then the Mumbai State Cooperative Act, and it was established by Shri Ram Singh Wala, who was the leader of this cooperative sugar factory. And this factory also had some very glorious years of his socio-economic development. So the cooperative sugar factory in Talada, Kodina, Unna, they are all sick now. We'll discuss the issues, the reasons why they are sick, and what problems these cooperatives over a period of time, which had shared some very glorious moments in socio-economic development. So basically, the entire cluster is somewhere here in South Gujarat, that is Baroda and above. And although there is some sugarcane grown into the Gir Somnath district of Gujarat, I mean in some quantity, but because of these sugar factories are non-operational, the sugarcane is utilized for jaggery making and similar consumption of the products. Further, so when we're talking about journey of sugar cooperatives in Gujarat, it was 1955 basically. Now I'll give you some pretext as to what made the incorporation of this cooperative, because sugar industry in India, I'm talking about general sugar industry. I mean, manufacturing of white crystal sugar started way back in 1935 onwards in India. But the first cooperative sugar factory in India, I'm talking about sugar factory being incorporated under cooperative model. Now here I would also like to bring it to everybody's attention that sugar industry and cooperative model, they are all together two different versions of ownership, right? You might have studied and heard about this corporate model. Similarly, cooperative is one form of ownership, but it has a different objective altogether, and which talks about not only profit sharing, and it doesn't talk about only capitalizing. It talks about economic as well as social, cultural development of the surrounding. So, with the development of this incorporation of the sugar factory and the cooperative movement in Ahmednagar, Parwara Nagar, that is what we know, right? Later on, in this sugar factory, cooperative sugar came around 1950-55 in Maharashtra. So it is not Gujarat who is pioneer in supporting or in starting the cooperative sugar factory. It was Maharashtra, and in Gujarat it was Badoli sugar factory, which was incorporated at a very infant level. If you see at that point of time, the share capital structure also, the total capital was 88 lakhs rupees at that point of time. And the plant capacity, the TCD, that is what we call in terms of sugar language, the crushing capacity per day was around 800 tons only. I'm talking about Badoli sugar factory in those days when it was incorporated around 1955-60s. And later on, Chaltan sugar factory was the second cooperative sugar factory, which was established under a cooperative model. So Chaltan and Kodinar were the two more factories. After and Badoli played a very important role in capacity building of this. So with whatever experience Badoli cooperative sugar factory had acquired in setting up their factory, they shared that experiences, and they helped this Chaltan and Kodinat to establish. Now, if you see the scene today of this, in fact, today Bardoli is one of the largest cooperative sugar factory in whole of Asia, not only in India. It has got 10,000 tons of crushing capacity per day, with more than 600 crore plus of revenue every year, right? And for your utter surprise, you can make a guess the cost of one share of Bardoli sugar factory. Even it is one of the costliest share. If you talk about the corporate stocks listed, it is more than 1,50,000. The cost of one share of Bardoli sugar factory is almost 1,50,000 rupees. It is that valuable. Right? And yet, since its inception, because of good leadership, in fact, we will be talking on that, with beautiful management, good leadership, there's a lot of location advantage, good quality of sugar cane. Basically, one another important reason for this sugar cooperative to flourish over the decades, in fact, it has never looked back. There were hiccups in almost all the sugar cooperatives, but Bardoli has been a promising, I mean, it has a beautiful journey of this 50, 60 years of its existence. And the reason is there because of the perennial irrigation facility of Ukai Dam, right, and good quality of soil, the good quality of cane is grown into that region, right? Because again, availability of quality and quantity of sugar cane is very, very important in sustainability and in development and growth of any cooperative sugar factory. So I'll move to the next slide. So with this, Bardoli was the first to be the sugar cooperative, followed by there are several other cooperative sugar factories now, as of now. So if I give you a little Snapchat, if you see this cooperative sugar factories or the cooperative model of sugar in Gujarat, let me give you some facts and figures, because I thought I'm going to talk to all economists, and simply being philosophical in my talk wouldn't make much sense. So I have tucked in a lot of data, just keeping into mind that I'm going to talk to economists. And economics means something concrete, facts and figures. A beautiful thing, even as of today, Gujarat is the only state in whole of India wherein entire sugar industry is in cooperative. Maharashtra was there, right? Not many of you may be aware. Maharashtra started with cooperative model as far as cooperative sugar cooperatives were concerned. But over a period of time, many of the cooperatives have been bought by private players. I mean, the corporates. That's one. Even the grassroots projects also have been incorporated under, say, for example, Renuka Sugar and all. They're all Balrampur, Chini Mills, maybe into UP, Maharashtra. Some of the private sugar factories are into Tamil Nadu, Andhra. These are some of the leading states of sugar production I'm talking about. But in spite of a lot of challenges, many of the cooperative sugar factories may be facing. But Gujarat government also supported that the sugar production in Gujarat would confine only and only into the cooperative model only. So 100% cooperative. Total sugar factories as of now in Gujarat are 12 out of, 22. Out of this 22, 13 are only operational, right? And if you see the installed crushing capacity per day, the total installed crushing capacity is 50,000 TCD per day. And there are almost 4.50 lakh farmers affiliated and are members of different cooperative sugar mills in Gujarat. I mean, it provides direct and indirect employment. Just see the strength. I mean, it provides almost 5.5 lakh people are associated, and that's their livelihood. So it is not only about the economic development. We'll see later on. but large number of people gets employment. It has more than 4,000 CR turnover annually, and it has 1.27 lakh hectares of land under cultivation. And as you are all economists and you are all aware that sugarcane is almost 60 to 70% more profitable compared to other crops. I'm not talking about the horticulture, but if you talk about the cotton or other crops that are grown, sugarcane is believed to be profitable for farmers also, does not need much labor, because once a crop is grown up, then only the farmers are expected to water them. Whereas in other cash crops, every 3-4 months, there is an entire setup which is to be made. There is a scarce, in fact, Gujarat is already a scarcity of labor state. There's a lot of difficulties in availability of agriculture labor. So because of this, wherever possible, farmers first give a priority to growing of sugar. That is one. Another reason is because of the large number of sugar factories present into different regions. There is a guarantee and assurance to farmers about their crop being bought. So if the farmer grows the sugarcane and he or she is a member of a cooperative sugar factory, he is to remain rest assured that his sugarcane will be cultivated, and this entire harvesting and transportation, all these activities are taken care by the sugar factory. Right. So farmers have to not make any efforts in terms of its labor arrangements of harvesting or transportation. And within the decided period, the amount of sugarcane sent to the factory makes a payment directly into the bank account of the member farmer. Right. So there is a very beautiful setup, in fact, that has been made because of this. So sugarcane is believed to be a very lucrative crop in terms of agriculture. Another important facet is about ethanol. Ethanol these days have been playing a very important role, not only in terms of economic perspective, not only in terms of business, but in terms of supporting the energy and fuel requirement of the country. Right. So, and ethanol can be produced from the byproduct of the sugar mills, which is molasses and rectified spirit, and then denatured alcohol. And so earlier, wherein there were distilleries attached to almost 7-8 sugar factories. And later on, when this use of ethanol was permitted to be added, as we are all aware that 5% is permissible, and government had planned to take up the ethanol fuel to 10%, addition of 10% to petrol, and which will help us to reduce to a certain extent the imports of and this is a byproduct, right? Further, if you see the productivity of sugarcane almost in Gujarat is fairly good compared to Pan India. I have not mentioned any data of Pan India comparison of per hectare productivity, but yes, in Gujarat it is good, and that is almost 80.48 tons per hectare. If you talk about the other economics of sugar industry of Gujarat, every year it crush almost 98 lakh tons of sugar cane, in fact, into this different sugar mills. It produces almost 100 lakh tons of sugar, crystal white sugar, annually. In terms of recovery, because this is a very important factor for every sugar industry, higher the recovery percentage, that is the sucrose percentage in sugarcane. Higher the sucrose percentage, chances of producing more kilograms of sugar per ton. So when we say it is 10%, it means that out of 1,000 kilo, at least 10 kilograms of this 100, sugar, 100 kilograms of sugar is produced. So compared to all India recovery rate, Gujarat is good. We produce substantial quantity of molasses, which is again used as a byproduct for into distilleries, production of ethanol, cattle feed, etc., etc. So there are almost 8 distilleries every year. Annually, rectified spirit is almost 986 lakhs. And begas, again, it's again a very important byproduct. So sugar industry does not only produce white crystal sugar. It, over and above sugar, it produces molasses, which is an important byproduct. Over and above molasses, it produces begas. Begas is nothing but the waste that remains after the juice has been extracted. And this begas, once dried, it is used as the fuel to the boilers, because sugar factories have their own captive power plants. They don't, during the crushing season, and you may be aware that sugar factories are seasonal industries, right? They start their operations from the month of October every year and remain functional till the month of March, April, max to max, or depending upon the availability of sugar cane within their area, targeted area. So this begas is an alternative fuel, and every sugar factory feeds this begas, dry begas, to their steam generated, to their boilers. Steam is fed into turbines, and there is a co-generation. And you can imagine that, and this is the reason sugar industry is also environmental friendly. It doesn't burn any fossil fuel like coal or something of that, right? Over and above that, there are several value-added value-added products that can be manufactured from this begas. It could be used to manufacture particle boards. It can be used by pepper industry. It can be used by organic manure manufacturing, etc., etc. So I just gave you a broader landscape of the of Gujarat state cooperative sugar factories, and this all information, this data has been extracted from the federation only. So this data is fairly reliable in terms of numbers and everything. So the other, here are the list of few factories that have been currently operational. So Badoli Sugar Factory currently with a crushing capacity of 10,000. Then there are Ganadevi Madi Factory. These are all cooperatives. These are all, there is not a single factory which is into public limited or other form of enterprise. So almost these are the 13 sugar factories that are operational as of now, with a crushing capacity annually 57,000 tons of sugarcane is crushed every day during the season. Over and above this 6 factories which I have shown, they are all already installed. At some point of time, they were operational, but they are now non-functional. They are closed because of many, many reasons, right? If we get time, or I can, in a question, we will deal the reasons of this non-operationals, right? So the capacity equivalent to 14,500 worth is currently defunct, right? And these are all erected, commissioned, they operated, but because whatever reasons, but they are as of now closed. Similarly, these are the 3 new sugar factories, again, which have been incorporated, registered, or are under the erection and commissioning phases into. So if you see, the total installed crushing capacity would be almost 79,000 TCD per day as far as the sugar industry of Gujarat is concerned, right? So with this data and facts and figures, let me talk about the contribution. Now, it is, I mean, it is very difficult to mention that the contribution is only into the few areas. In fact, the reason I'm saying this, the statement I'm mentioning this is with the responsibility. I myself is a farmer, a registered farmer in one of the cooperative society, right? My father also is a farmer and he owns 40, 50 acres of land somewhere in Saurashtra. I have heard from my father that the kind of the exploitation that was there, the kind of the economic well-being of the family prior to sugar factory was commissioned. And after the sugar factory was commissioned and once it started operating, my father could educate me into one of a very good school, which is called Rajkumar College. So I feel proud and happy about this. That normally this school, which is located in Rajkot, wherein only it is said that the people of the privileged princely states only could afford to study. But I feel happy that my father tells that because of this cooperative sugar factory only, I could afford to educate you in this kind of a school, right? So with this responsibility and the fruits that I have enjoyed, and my family have enjoyed out of this cooperative sugar factory, excuse me, let me discuss. So earlier when this jaggery was manufactured, I mean the prices, majority of the traders used to exploit the farmer. Neither they were paid any remunerative or lucrative prices, right? And therefore, this cooperative, wherever they are working, whether they are working in Gujarat or wherever in other parts of India, but there is no doubt this sugar cooperatives have made tremendous economic development across. Because of course there is some price that has been fixed by the central government, which is known as the FRP, fair and remunerative prices, that needs to be paid by every sugar factory, irrespective of the form of ownership, whether you are a private, you are a public, or you are a cooperative. But every year government declares the FRP for sugar per quintal. Probably as of now, it is 275 per quintal, which will amount to almost 2,700 or 2,800 per ton. So because of this, the farmers get good remunerative prices and lot of and because of surplus money, they could spend behind some other activities, development of the family, improving their living standard, quality of life, etc., etc. Right. So yes, economic development, definitely nobody can deny on this perspective. We are all economists, and I'm damn sure we all have validated data also and statistics to speak about. But looking to the time, I would not be dwelling much. Second, education, I'll tell you, every sugar factory has, over and above the economic development, these sugar cooperatives have set some kind of educational institute. Maybe ITI colleges, or maybe schools, maybe entire education campus. In fact, if you talk about this Parvanagar, Dr. V.K. Patil Sahkari Khand Udyog, it has engineering college, it has medical college, it has schools, etc., etc. I'm talking that's where in Ahmedabad. But even in Gujarat, I'm talking that there are sugar factories who have set up higher education right from KG to PG. And what was the model? Every year, the sugar factories used to deduct 2 rupees or 3 rupees or 5 rupees per ton of farmers, and this amount which was deducted was donated to the educational complexes that they have developed under their trusteeship. So there is no second doubt. For example, this one university, Azadi, somewhere in South Gujarat, it is operational as of now, and near Bardoli somewhere. There also, this is a private university, and as majority of the good cooperative sugar factories are located into this belt, they also have voluntarily donated in setting up this education university, which is higher education. So tremendous. The third development, I mean, we are talking about, today we are into 2022. I am talking about an era post-independence. I have witnessed so many facets with my own eyes and experiences. It is only since last 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, the government of Gujarat have been talking about having all-weather road into rural areas, right? Think in 1960s and 70s. Neither we had that, neither our government had that resources to develop that each and every interior road. But these sugar cooperatives developed pakka roads, all weather friendly roads since 60s and 70s. And this is also the annual based out of the turnover they generate. They contribute some amount as area development fund. So over and above infrastructure of roads, they were into development of irrigation facilities, right? And over and above that, there were cooperative sugar factories which had initiated and pioneered in making electricity available. We know the fate of electricity in our country. Well, now we claim ourselves to be 100% electrified, but I'm sure the contribution of this cooperatives, sugar cooperatives particularly, whether it is road network or whether it is development of irrigation or whether it is any other kind of infrastructure setup, I mean, it cannot be overlooked. I mean, over and above that, healthcare, let me give you an example. There is one of the sugar factories in rural Saurashtra, interior south coastal belt of Saurashtra. I'm talking about this Kodina sugar factory. With successful operations of this sugar factory, I think in 1960s or 65, this sugar factory had set up a full-fledged hospital, healthcare center with 50 beds of operation with X-ray machine, operation theater. I'm talking about 1965, right? I'm not talking about 2022. Now, this location which I'm talking about is an interior part of Saurashtra. And at that point of time, the people of this region, if they had some medical emergencies, Rajkot or Junagadh was a distance almost 150 to 200 kilometer distance. They had to travel to access the higher end medical facility, right? And this hospital is operational and functional. Imagine having an X-ray machine in 1960s with 50 fully bed residential hospital. Not only that, the charges of this hospital were nominal. You pay just 5 rupees or 10 rupees. The hospital has this X-ray facilities. The hospital has the indoor patient, admitting patients indoor. It has general surgeon, it has a gynec, it has a pediatrician, it has several visiting, consulting specialized doctors, right? And this is exclusively at a very, very affordable rate. That's one. That's one. Second, irrespective of any caste, creed, or economic status, everybody is welcome even today. What could be, and I'm not talking, and this, all the medical services that are given, even as of today, are state-of-the-art medical services. Whether it was, we have just witnessed this pandemic, and we see the medical crisis, right? So the people of that region or people who have been connected with this cooperative model of sugar, and I can say this with lot of happiness and confidence. Similarly, when we're talking about environment, I mean, there are a lot of eco-friendly, sustainable. We are talking about sustainable environment. If we talk about only on environment, the sugar cooperatives have made a tremendous contribution in preserving the ecosystem within their periphery, because they don't use any fossil fuel, right? Their wastewater is again recycled and used for further value. I mean, it is reused, recycled and reused. So if we talk about the recycle, reuse, and reduction of which talks about environmental three principles, this sugar cooperatives are precisely doing it, right? They are into biofuels. They are into co-generation. In fact, in Gujarat, many of the sugar factories are using this surplus begas, to co-generate electricity and contribute to the power grid. So it is not only economically viable, but even in terms of efficient use of natural resources, right? Similarly, social development, as I've told you, even the Dr. Varghese Kurian used to very oftenly say that he has brought in harmony and peace. He has brought in discipline in the society. And I have read into his autobiography, I Too Had a Dream, and he says that in the evening, when the ladies go to the dairy cooperative in the village, they are supposed to stand in the line, right? Irrespective of the quantity of milk you supply, irrespective of your caste, or irrespective of your social status, right? Social reforms, these cooperatives have been very, very pivotal and pioneer. Because as I've told you, that imagine a farmer educating his son in pure English medium. I'm not saying that taking education in English medium, particularly when we are talking about Gujarat imposing compulsory Gujarati into various places. So I'm not trying to highlight from that perspective. But yes, imagine a farmer who could think of educating his son in 1975 with, in English medium. The education of the girl, the awareness about several social issues that we're facing today in recent time. Now, all this would have not been possible without the support and without the umbrella of this cooperative. So we don't call this. So that is the reason that it is not only the economic, not only social, educational, or cultural development, but there are other cultural development, for example, preservation, right? Mass marriages we have been talking about today, but mass marriages supported by cooperative sugar factories. To an extent, I'll tell you, in certain sugar factories provide hygienic, purified water, drinking water into their villages also. In certain villages of South Gujarat. Similarly, when we are talking about rural development, you visit, you can compare. I teach a course on rural marketing, and I used to tell my students, right, that when you are into the field exploring the opportunities to market your products, the moment you enter a village, you will get a feel as to economic status and well-being of a village, right? That is always said. So if you see good RCC structures and a school and some general, common places for the village, you can get a feel that there is a cooperative behind this movement to a greater extent, right? And therefore, rural development since 1950s and 60s, I assure you can visit any of the villages in South Gujarat, or you can visit the villages that of Maharashtra or wherever this cooperative movement, whether it is dairy cooperative, whether it is sugar cooperative, you can visit this. Because I have myself been traveling into length and depth of India. I've been into Bihar, I've been into Jharkhand, I've traveled across, and I can make a comparative understanding. I don't need to collect statistical data, but it's visible when you compare across different states. So there is no doubt the sugar cooperatives have made phenomenal development and contribution, right? And finally, I would say nation building, because sugar, it is an essential commodity. That is one. Second, once upon a time, it was an important, it was being imported. We were not self-sufficient in terms of sugar. Think of 1991 era wherein forex was one of the precious, precious thing, right? Today, we can proudly say that annually we produce almost 35 crore tons of sugarcane, almost 3 plus something crore tons of sugar, and we consume almost 2.5 to 2.6 crore tons of sugar for everything, for value addition and all kinds of consumptions, right? And yet we have a buffer stock of almost 50 to 60 lakh tons, right? We don't need, in fact, to import sugar anymore. And we know that sugar is again being distributed through public distribution system to this people, BPL people, right? So India, after Brazil, is believed to be the second largest producer and the largest consumer of sugar in the world. Now the economy, the economics and dynamics of the sugar industry will definitely change, because Brazil has started diverting a lot of its beet production, because here in India our sugar is through cane, sugar cane, whereas in Brazil it is beetroot, right? And that is a different thing. But in Brazil, a lot of this production is into ethanol. And Brazil has already adopted hybrid model of fuel into its vehicle. Almost 40% of the vehicles run on ethanol, right? Whereas in case of India, these are all, of course, this is all going to be in the next few decades or years, whatever we call, wherein sugar industry will play an important role. So yes, all-round development. Somewhere when we talk about industry, nation building, it was public sectors took responsibility in certain areas, and they contributed in whatever way they could help in developing the country. Somewhere the private sectors played an important role in building the nation. Similarly, the role of cooperatives also is phenomenal and cannot be underestimated in terms of when you are all economists who have been connected. You collect, and if you put various data into the analysis and you do the cross analysis, we can see the contribution. It's a huge contribution. Almost, I believe the sugar industry is almost 1 lakh crore per annum, contributes tremendously in terms of revenue to state government, to central government, generating employment and other assets as well. Further, this is going to be the last slide, and then we will, I'll end my talk. So when we say this journey ahead, now, as of now, when I have been so much loudly and very enthusiastically speaking tons about this movement, right? But when we are talking about 2022, this segment had been ignored for a lot. A lot of things should have been done. In fact, before the start of the talk, one of our person, I mean, was talking about Vaikunt Mehta Institute of Cooperative Management, which is housed in Pune, is being elevated to Cooperative University. Of course, sooner, better, never than great. I mean, similarly, a full-fledged ministry being established at center, this itself shows. So even this government also realized the strength of this this segment, this sector. Not only that, because not everywhere private sector is going to come. If you have to develop, and it is, this cooperative movement was loud and very clearly practiced by Gandhiji. Even you talk about, you read the literature, and Gandhiji was also one of the strong contender for this. But what is going on? This cooperatives in this global environment somewhere is losing its charm. In fact, the new generation, my children don't know what these cooperatives are. I'm so much emotionally attached to this movement, but my children are no more interested into it because the cooperative sugar factory that was there in my town is now closed. It is defunct. Now, if somebody asks me why it is defunct, there are endless reasons that can be cited, right? So this industry across, I'm not only, I mean, it's not only Gujarat Cooperative Society, sugar cooperatives, but I'm talking about the cooperative movement as a whole. I'm talking about cooperative sugar factories across India, because majority of the cooperative sectors in Maharashtra, because living states, Maharashtra, UP, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Bihar, Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, these are the leading states. But many cooperative sugars have shut down. In Maharashtra, we have already said that 5 sugar factories are on the verge of liquidation in Gujarat itself, right? So unless and until, and let me tell you, sugar, it is a business. Cooperative model is an economic, socio-economic model. But in sugar industry as of now, you will see public sector players, you will see private sector players, and you will see cooperative players. And you all are economists, and you have seen the efficiencies of private sector. And this cooperative simply cannot remain under hibernation and say that we are a rural industry and we can't compete. I mean, we'll have to compete. There's no reason why we shouldn't, and there's no reason why we'll have not to. And the mindset has to be global, because when we are talking about road journey ahead, this is the history. There was a glorious history, right? But today we see the collapsing of many large corporations. तो फिर तो इसके against में the small units with very lesser strength and economic resources. So that is one. Policy initiative in terms of strengthening of governance of these cooperatives. There are cooperative laws. Lot of things have happened during this span of this 65 years of truly post-independence. Multi-state cooperatives, the laws have been amended, producer cooperative society acts have come into picture. The center is somewhere trying to reconcentrate on this. State is reconcentrating. This segment has generated a lot of social leaders, political leaders, so many things when we are talking about social development. But concrete policy initiatives, and which has to be executed. Because when I'm talking about sugar, there are a lot of committees. As of now also, pan-India, in Gujarat also, a lot of outstanding of 10 areas. Many sugar cooperatives have acquired. I think there is a policy that from the day of 15 days from the day of your sugarcane, the sugarcane of the farmer release the sugar factory day, factories are supposed to pay the farmers within 15 days. But there are incidences, there are huge payment arrears outstanding in Gujarat as well as other cooperatives in India, which is not very encouraging. And because of this, what has happened? The model that had literally empowered the masses, today the faith and the confidence of people and members is losing. So if you see pan-India sugarcane data, particularly in cooperative belts, the sugarcane cultivation is reducing. And farmers have started diverting the agriculture cultivable land into horticulture or other alternative crops, which is not a healthy sign. So strong policy initiatives backed by strong execution and implementation. That is capacity development. So in terms of whether it is technology, we have seen what professionalism cooperative dairy can do, right? And it is all, there is nothing new. We know Dr. Kurian, we know his vision, and we know how professionally Gujarat Milk Marketing Federation has come in. Give me 2 minutes. I will just give me 2 minutes. I'll just I'll turn off my video for 2 minutes. Yes, sorry for the interruption. So, capacity building in terms of governance, in terms of professional management, in terms of resource building. In Brazil, a sugar factory can directly produce ethanol from, I mean, the same machinery, the technology can produce ethanol without getting into the entire process of manufacturing sugar and then from molasses to ethanol, right? In India, that kind of technology definitely will come in, but as of now, no. So the cooperatives have to think that there is no government may give some subsidy as they are giving it to corporates. They may give some import subsidy, they may give some export subsidy, they may give some soft term loans, etc., etc. Cooperatives will have to learn to compete with the corporates. That is what my biggest learning from the Amul model is there, right? So capacity building in every aspect, whether it is development of manpower, because constant training and development of your people there. I mean, today the entire sugar industry is open. The levy mechanism has been taken away. And today the quota restrictions to a greater extent has been removed. And the market, you and me have already started consuming branded sugar. Now, and you may not, there are very few sugar factories, cooperative sugar factories, who have learned this art and science of branding and quality and consumer-centric business models and consumer-centric business mind. Days are over wherein every month your fixed quantity of sugar was to be sold in the market. The government would procure, buy certain quantity under its levy quota. So, to remain relevant and competitive, capacity building across the entire value chain of cooperative sugar factory is a need of an hour. So professionalism. Another important point that I would like to highlight is the cooperatives. The important facet of the cooperative is the role of the leaders, the members, and the discipline with which they work. Now, let me give an example. One of the reasons why many sugar factories have closed is because of overlapping of sugarcane zones. There was once upon a time, there was a restriction as a part of the setting up of a cooperative sugar, setting up of a factory, not only cooperative, may be any type. Within a 50-kilometer radius, there was no second factory permitted. Today, what is happening? It is the philosophy of cooperation is that it is cooperation amongst cooperative, but that philosophy, that spirit of helping and supporting the other cooperative organizations have somewhere faded. Why I'm telling this? Bardoli Sugar Factory, because it is very profitable, it is very efficient, so it can pay more remunerative, lucrative prices to the farmers supplying the sugar cane. So the farmers of the members of other cooperatives move away from their sugar factory and supply it to Badoli sugar. Thereby, because sugar in our country as of now, the only raw material to produce crystal white sugar is sugar cane. So instead of trying to help and support each other, which is not, I mean, this is the case. One of the reasons why this dairy sector has succeeded is because of this federation. They all have been assigned important responsibilities and they jointly do the entire production and very systematic planning and etc. etc. But this is not the case in cooperatives. The cooperatives are competing for raw material, unhealthy practices, right? And because of this, a lot of small factories, small size cooperative factories don't get quality of sugarcane because that is again important. Even if you get quantity of sugarcane which is not of appropriate quality, wherein recovery, when I'm talking about recovery rate, there are good variety of sugarcane which has high level of sucrose. So all these facets of members and their responsibility, their participation, unless and until members are active, they don't participate, they don't question. I'm not talking about they should interfere, because here also the entire election and everything is on the principles of democracy. I mean, this is again of the people, by the people, and for the people. I think it's all, I mean, on regular intervals, the election takes place, and everything is very systematic as it is there. But somehow the contribution this segment made to the rural economy and what we see today, I feel really sad and I feel disheartened, because when I'm involved into an industry which is very close to my heart, although I'm an MBA and I'm a marketing man, I have been teaching business strategy, all that is okay. That is the left side of my brain. But if you investigate my right side of my brain, you will see the cooperatives into that part wherein my heart is there. So once again, with this, I would end, I think. So thank you, ma'am, and thank you, the Institute, for giving me this opportunity to speak of my heart rather than my mind. Let me tell you very honestly. And there are several senior professors. I see Neeraj Shah Saab. I don't know you, sir, personally, but this is my first interaction with ma'am and with this institute as well, right? But I really enjoyed, and the moment when Dr. Nachiket appeared, he said, you are supposed to say something on sugar cooperatives. Yes, I will. And I immediately, without a second thought, I accepted, because this is very close to my heart. So a lot can be told and a lot can be spoken about this industry. But with this, thank you once again, the organizers, the institute, and the participants for connecting with me on this lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Barad, for detailed information on the sugar cooperatives in southern Gujarat. I'm sure there must be a lot of participants who would like to pose some questions or some points of discussion. So I think now we would leave the floor open. And I can see Dr. Somda Dev Lahiri raising his finger. So I think now, sir, you can go ahead with your question. You can unmute.
Thank you, madam. Hi, Dr. Barad.
Hi,
Has
Lahiri Saab. In fact, ma'am, we know each other. We were neighbors. Lahiri Saab and me used to. So, sir, you are yet in Gandhinagar?
No, I mean, I'm no.
Okay.
It was a wonderful speech. I'm very happy to hear that. I just want to ask one question, since I don't know much about this area. Has this model of cooperatives owning 51% of the shares and 49% of the shares being open to the public been tried? It hasn't.
Sir, this doesn't, this 51 and 49, this proportion is not applicable to cooperatives. In cooperatives, basically for sugar cooperatives, I mean, for different models of cooperatives, there are different norms. Let me tell you, for sugar cooperative, wherever a factory is to be set up, so there is an land area demarcated, 15 kilometers or 20 kilometers. So all the farming members growing sugarcane, the eligibility, they are eligible to become a member of this. And depending upon the total capital required, the shares are distributed, and this is only within this community, member community. Neither they are listed anywhere, neither they are traded. The shares are traded amongst the members of that region only. So this is very different from the what do you call, the public limited kind of a model wherein stocks are traded and listed and everything.
I have one. I wanted to ask you one thing. You had mentioned that the prices, the farmers are getting a remunerative prices for the product and all. So, is there some comparison being done between the net returns to the farmers in the sugar cooperatives and the corporates and the private sector sugar factories? And that is one of the question. The second question is that this is some kind of a contract between the farmers in the at a certain earmarked region and the sugar factory. So a lot of backward linkages would also be involved. So whether there's some kind of technology transfer or in scientific information, farming practices, that kind of information, which is usually mandatory in a contract farming kind of a setup, is that being given to the members of the cooperative, the producers of the sugar? And the last thing is, you had mentioned that a lot of sugar mills are actually, cooperative factories are shutting down. Now, you said that sugarcane, the quality of sugarcane produced is very good and all that, but I, being a person from the agroclimatic kind of a background, my initial proposition is that sugarcane cultivation itself is, although the sugar production may be environmentally very beneficial, but the sugarcane production itself is quite detrimental to the land resource. And it leads to, in fact, it has the Ukai water, the Tapi water have led to a lot of salinity problem and ingress of seawater and all that in the regions where sugarcane is. So, and the fallouts are out of that kind of a negative externality which has been created. Is it in any way responsible for the sugar cooperative factories to shut down? Is there this kind of a political economy?
Yes. In fact, see, there are so many things. I mean, if you talk about, yes, sugar cane itself is an high intensive water consumption kind of a crop. And salination expansions and degradations of soil quality, these are, of course, some of the drawbacks of the crop, sugarcane as a crop, right? So, ma'am, I buy your proposition also, that these are the side effects of this crop as a whole, right? Sugarcane production has been reducing, in fact, in several. If you talk about, see, over a period of couple of decades, the monsoon has become very irregular, right? And there's a lot of the groundwater has gone into, I mean, it has been already into a bad situation, if I have to say. So that is all one. So yes, to a certain extent, it is not only cooperatives, it is a sugar industry as a whole. But sugar being a very essential commodity, in that case, either we import or we, coming
about the production, coming down. And the other question I wanted to ask was the parity that ultimately what the remuneration the farmers are getting. Is there some kind of a study done to compare in other states where the organization pattern is not cooperatives but corporate sector or maybe private sector or anything else? So there, and what the cooperative members in Gujarat sugar cooperative factories, the kind of ultimate remuneration, net remuneration that they are getting, is there some kind of a parity, or there also there are some stark differences?
Yes. In fact, the cost, there is one institute which decides the agriculture cost. I think agriculture cost, and there's a department. That annually they declare the FRP, fair and remunerative price, minimum support price that we may be talking about. I mean, for sugarcane, it is FRP, fair and remunerative price. That's the practice. And there's a formula. right? So this department under Ministry of Agriculture, they declare this price. So say currently it is 275 per quintal. So that is almost 275, 2700, 2800 approximate. So this is the base price, right? Now, every sugar factory has a set of members associated and registered with it. So as per their contract, these members are bound to supply the sugarcane to that area, right? But in certain areas, if there are a lot of sugar factories which are located into close proximity, right? So somewhere there is a competition of paying higher level of prices. Now say Bardoli has a 10,000 ton CCD, I mean TCD per, so economy of scale of Bardoli is far, far larger compared to a plant with 3,500 tons or 2,500 tons or something of that. Here I'm taking out the cooperative form from the talk. Let's talk about the sugar business. Because, and then I had already told that sugar business is one aspect, the cooperative model is the other aspect, right? So when we're talking about cooperative sugar, there are corporates also, there are public sector, and in UP there are more. State public sector sugar factories are there in UP. Majority of them are closed or sold off. So yes, somewhere price parity, the formula of this fair and remunerative price is benchmark taking into consideration the recovery rate as well, the cost of sugar production, the recovery, etc., etc. So there are 3-4 variables which are taken into consideration. As of now, the scene is that this FRP, fair and remunerative price, is the minimum price that everybody is supposed to pay, right? If it is not paid, the government can take actions against those kind of, whether you are a cooperative, you are a corporate, or you are a private public sector. Government can take actions. That is one. The other aspect is that farmers will tend to supply their cane to sugar factories who pay them higher prices. Although these farmers are bounded to supply to the member of the member cooperative. Beyond a limit, a factory, what they can do, they can cancel, they can suspend, etc., etc. So there is that what do you call that that support, that attachment with your member cooperative. Earlier it was there, but now farmers also have become commercial. If Bardoli is paying me 3,000 rupees per ton, I will supply to Bardoli. If I am a member of Mawa Sugar, I will not supply to Mawa because Mawa is paying me only 2,600 or 2,700. That is two. So I hope I have answered your question. And the third point, I also, every sugar cooperative under their rural development activities, they provide tremendous support to farmers in terms of bringing good variety of and best practices of agriculture, technology. A lot of science and support is being extended. I mean, at a very either at free of cost or at a very nominal cost. But in spite of all these practices, because see, these are as good as in the initial development of dairy, Dr. Kurian had realized that if I have to make this model successful, I should get quality and quantity of milk. So he brought in the Holstein and this yielding variety breed from other countries, right? Similarly, here also there is a agriculture, agriculture department in every sugar factory. And over and above procurement of cane, they're also responsible for development of cane. Okay,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Madhu Bharti and then Dr. Chogule.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Niti, and thank you, Dr. Kishore Barad, for a very interesting and informative lecture. I want to keep my question very short so that others get time. And my question per se is not regarding sugar cooperatives, but regarding the cooperative movement as such. I remember the first table you showed early on where you said about 17% of the cooperatives are in the housing cooperative sector. And we find that the housing cooperative movement has really actually failed. And it has come to almost a static point now, where the government is also saying like no more housing cooperatives. If a new house is built, it has to be registered under a certain act. And while is in the rural areas where there is a great need for housing and there's a great housing shortage, the cooperative movement has not even gone there, not even picked up in the rural cooperative areas. So is it true for the sugar industry that actually these so-called cooperatives are functioning as a commercial venture in a gap of a cooperative society, where maybe the few people are controlling the business and the others get small benefits out of it, which had happened in the housing cooperative sector? Thank you.
So, ma'am, a good question. In fact, yes, we have seen that housing cooperatives, which was once upon a time a dream for millions of people, middle-class people, to have their own house over a period. But if you see, as of now, also the multi-storied buildings, residential complexes, which are coming up, although a private builder develops, but they are registered as service housing societies only. And many facets of cooperative housing applies to this society. You get the point? But earlier, the model in which the housing cooperatives was coming up in another area, somewhere because of what you said, that few people used to control and there were a lot of mismanagement and mishaps and all. And parallel to that, a new model of this multi-storied building and everything started coming up. So people, as I've told you, as people get alternative models of their fulfilling their requirements, people are going to go there. You get the point, ma'am? So, but one very interesting thing that you have raised a question is about housing cooperatives in rural areas. That is a very important facet, right? And in fact, if you see the bylaws of a cooperative sugar factory, right, they are similar to with the object laws, and every bylaws has the objectives. So if a cooperative sugar factory wants to initiate and do this, I mean, I don't think so government is going to stop them. They can alter, because in their annual general meeting, with 3/4 of this voting on the movement, I mean, the agenda, I mean, they can be permitted. There is no sugar factory which is experimented. Let me tell you, if sugar factories can set up so many other periphery, they've set up value addition, I mean, other projects for women's and for society as a large. Why can't they do this, ma'am? So, yes, in fact, I don't think so. It's not possible. Cooperatives can initiate, or government can specially. And normally, what you in our country, what is happening? If some government focuses on certain thrust and they anchor it to certain segment, then everything starts moving. But here, rural housing is not. So, what would be the model? What would be the revenue? What would be the maintenance? How it is going to be governed? So, a lot of issues are there. And the earlier models have failed. So, not many are encouraged to get into this.
Dr. Ajit Chowgule.
Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you very much. Now, with your permission, these cooperative housing federations, I am a director of Pune District Housing Federation. What, ma'am, you were supposed to, I believe, what I interpret, that in housing sector, building sector, construction, cooperatives are not there, private big builders are there. But in Maharashtra, Pune district, we have got 4,000 cooperative housing societies and apartments as award members out of 10,000. So comparatively, it is fairly good. About 40% these housing societies are the members of the Housing Federation. And in rural areas, these cooperatives are powerful, as mentioned by Dr. Baradji, that is PACs in agricultural cooperatives and irrigation societies. Now coming back to the sugar sector, Here I would like to add what already Dr. Kishore ji has mentioned, that the fair and remunerative price FRP, which is declared by the Government of India, Ministry of Agriculture, and there is a commission for agriculture cost and prices. Repeat. Yeah, that annually they are consulting with the agricultural universities, research institutes, and sugar institutes like National Sugar Institute Kanpur, or Indian Institute of Sugarcane Research Lucknow, and Sugarcane Breeding Institutes Coimbatore. These are all the premium institute, 100-year-old institutions. Plus, commission is also dealing with interacting with the state governments, Department of Agriculture and Sugar Industry Association, and they are recommending these prices. Here, Dr. Saab, with your kind permission, I would like to add, if you allow me.
Yes, yes, please, please.
Yeah, for this current sugar season has commenced from October onwards.
Yes,
as we know, or some of may not know, this October to September is a sugar year.
Yeah.
And prior to commencement of this thing, the government announces the sugarcane price, CACP, on the basis of CACP recommendations. So for this season, Dr. Saab, it is 290 rupees per quintal of the sugar.
290, okay.
290.
Okay. Last year it was 275.
285. And
285.
What you mentioned in 1920 season,
Okay.
2020 season was 275.
Okay.
And with this base recovery of 10% of the sugar recovery, and with the premium of increase of every 0.1%,
0.1%,
2.90 per quintal of the sugar cane, or in a ton basis per percentage, 1%, it comes to 290 rupees. As far as this thing, government has given the incentive also. And likewise, if sugar sucrose this thing percentage is below 9.5, so there is a decrease also. There will be a deduction.
yes,
For 9.5% or less than will be 275.50 per quintal of this thing price will be paid. This is about FRP. Now, some of these states like Punjab, Haryana, UP, Uttarachal, and Tamil Nadu, they have got their state advice price, SAP.
SAP.
So that is over and above. States have also been allowed.
Yes. SAP is there.
SAP, state advice price.
Prices.
So that is also one of the cause why sugar industry is this thing, falling sick, because this thing, sugar which is manufactured being sold as 12 months or 18 months period of time. As you mentioned rightly, that monthly release quota is announced by the Ministry of Food, sugar mill wise. And fortunately, even though we have crossed the 30 million tons of sugar production at national level,
yes,
we have
yes.
exported last year 72 lakh tons of sugar.
Yes.
So that has given, and till date, till February, about 32 lakh tons of sugar exports have been contracted, and about 28 lakh tons have been physically exported. The benefits which are states having coastal lines like Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Karnataka, they are exporting the sugar. And our, as you rightly mentioned, that in European countries, this sugar is produced from beet. So if we globally see that 30% is beet sugar, 70% is the cane sugar. Now coming back to just at a glance at Maharashtra, as you said, because of vagaries of the climate and nature, diversion of the crop, Gujarat, a farmer is a very intelligent, brilliant farmer, and he looks at the price for the crop. But in Maharashtra, since we have got small holdings, our sugarcane acreage has gone 11 lakh hectares to 12.40 lakh hectares this season, current 21-22. There are three reasons behind this. One is this thing is assured price, as you mentioned, FRP within 15 days. Few about I have got sugar commissioner's data. of as of every fortnight they publish, and 90% of this thing FRP has been paid in the Maharashtra, and 100% FRP paid sugar mills are 90, and number of factories having dues are about 100. Means there is percentage of every 10, 80 to 90, 90 to this thing 80, 75. And as on date, 98 cooperatives and 99 private, 197 mills are in operational. Daily crushing capacity of Maharashtra is 8 lakh tons. And so far we have crushed 900 lakh tons of sugarcane. Still we expect to about 300 lakh tons to be more. Some of the areas where this good rainfall is there in Marathwada region, these our sugar factories will run up to May end, sir. And we have produced about 92 lakh tons of sugar with sugar recovery of 10.2%. After diversion for the ethanol, 1.64. Average recovery of the state is 11.9%. So fairly good. Kolhapur region, which is on the banks of rivers of Krishna and Panchaganga, they have got highest because of climate also 13.18%. This is in the nutshell of Maharashtra. Then about ethanol, you did mention about last year Maharashtra has produced 105 crore liters of ethanol. There was a special this thing incentive scheme was floated by the Ministry of Food for ethanol augmentation of the capacities. Out of that, 50 sugar mills, out of these are 20 cooperatives and 13 private sector. They have taken with the concessional 6% interest subvention, so that ethanol blending program, which was announced by the Prime Minister on this thing 5th of June, Maharashtra's ethanol blending capacity is almost touched to the 10% with the petrol blending. Now we are aiming for 11%. That is the just nutshell in Maharashtra. And as you mentioned, this Vamnicom, Vaikunt Mehta National Institute of Cooperative Management, Pune, that is being now converted into Cooperation University, that will give further boost to the Maharashtra and neighboring states like Gujarat and Karnataka. This is all.
Thank you. It will become an anchoring university for whole of India. As I see this as it's going to, because Vemicom is promoted by National Cooperative Development Council under Ministry of Agriculture. So it will be.
Yeah, Vaikuntbhai Mehta was the great preeminent leader. So because these cooperative movements are good in these states, so naturally they will harness.
I would like to, sir and ma'am, I would like to add one very important scene. Sugar industry is very cyclical.
Can I request you to take one more question from Professor Shah, and then you can club it with this?
Sure.
Sir Nilesh Shah, you can.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much, Dr. Kishore, for delivering a contemporary issue on sugar cooperative and at our institute. And you have covered almost all aspects of the sugar industries. My simple question rather is, we know that the MSP has very important role in development of any crop. So you must be knowing that recent government policies have a dramatic structural change in MSP, and that is in favor of sugarcane. So I would like to know from you, sir, that what will be its impact on area and productivity of sugar itself?
Sir, what is happening here? There is a tug of war between the MRP, I mean the MSP, that is minimum FRP for sugar industry. Now it is fine when government declares this FRP. It is good. It is protecting the interest of the farmers. But I'll tell you, currently the market value of per kg sugar is 31 rupees, 31, 32 rupees. This even doesn't cover the basic cost of production also of sugar.
Yes,
you get the point. One of the reasons why it is not only cooperatives or corporates which are becoming sick. There are so many, what do you call this, private companies are also sick, if you talk about of sugar. So when we are talking about, so there has to be a rationalization, which is not actually happening. And then what is happening, that private, because we know the private model of doing a business, right? So we won't get into that issue, but private will do one or the other hiccups and they will make it somewhere. They'll cut the corners here and there, and they'll try to portray their balance sheet, right? But this is not feasible with cooperatives. One of the major reason is this. That is so, rationalization of prices. I'll tell you, see, my practical experience, see, if Bardoli, because of his economy of scale, can say pay 3,500 rupees to its farmers. Now, a nearby factory with 2,500 TCD cannot afford to do that. But what will farmers pressurize the factory of 2,500 that you also pay us 3,500? They will do all kind of tamashas at factory. They will politicalize the entire scene, and during the election, they will vote for the people who paid them higher prices. Now, for your another information, majority of the cooperative sugar factories are borrowing working capital from state cooperative bank. That's the nodal financing agency. In Gujarat also, Gujarat State Cooperative Bank gives them term loans and working capital loans under their stock hypothecation, right? Now imagine if a factory can afford to pay only 2,500 rupees, and if under compulsion they are supposed to pay say 3,000, 3,200 rupees, etc., etc. You can understand what is going to be the financial health of the cooperatives, right? And these factories are borrowing money and they have to repay. It's a working capital loan. It's an arrangement. It is an arrangement between the state government and the cooperative societies. And one of the reasons why this lot of issues are there, which is not practical. And that is the reason I'm saying rationalization. The cooperative is a model, but then you are into a business of sugar. So whether you are a corporate or you are a cooperative, you'll have to work as per the needs and demands of the market. You get the point, sir?
Right.
So a lot of issues are there, in fact.
Okay.
Yes. So I was saying, I just wanted to add one important scene of this industry. See, it's a cyclical industry, and in India, every 3 to 4 years, there is a cycle. So what happens, particularly, I'm talking about entire sugar industry, irrespective of the form of ownership, 2-3 years, there will be bumper production because maybe monsoon is good and there's plenty of water, and so good large number of large land under cultivation for sugarcane. So sugarcane availability in large quantity, sugar production in large quantity. Now, India being largest consumer, we have always disadvantage. Whenever we have surplus sugar to be exported, international market falls. I mean, I won't talk about I won't dare to enter into demand and supply in front of all economists, right? And when we go out, whenever there is a reduction of production, I mean, when our internal production is less and we have to import sugar, the market rises. So this acts in surplus, it is the disadvantage. In shortage, again, it is a disadvantage. That's one. And every 3 to 4 years, because of bumper production of sugarcane, bumper sugar production, the scene is very unhealthy. And the 4th or the 5th year, the sugarcane cultivation reduces, sugarcane supply reduces, sugar production reduces, the buffer stock created within the country reduces because of the production, the current production could not add to the stock. So the prices of the sugar increases. And there is a pressure on the government also. We know wholesale price index, and even there is a little increase in the essential commodity, and people are on roads. You are all economists, you know all the implications of all this, right? So government is under pressure, and then government intervention comes into picture, all in all. So this is, although government is saying that we have freed the economy, the industry, but lot of restrictions and regulations and a lot of compulsions, which is not making very healthy and sensible strategies for this industry.
That's right. Thank you.
Hansa, you want to ask your?
Space mute. Currently unmuted. Hold +A button.
Hansa Jain, do you want to say something? You want to ask something?
Network bandwidth is low.
Hansa Jain?
Yeah, I have one small question. I just want to know to what extent the policy changes in favor of industrial growth and the resulting environmental pollution is responsible for the downfall of sugar cooperatives, and to what extent the recent policy measures in relation to rural development, particularly Gati Shakti, will help in revival of sugar cooperatives. This is my question.
Yes, ma'am. So let me tell one thing. In fact, in terms of pollution, let me start with that. Compared to other industries, I mean, every industry pollutes. And let's be very honest. However, the intensity and the quantity of emitting the pollutants into the environment. In fact, in case of sugar factories, it is the polluted water that is emitted into the rivers and nearby water bodies, right? So sugar factories are known for it. The discharge from these distilleries and the sugar factories, they stink a lot if they are not properly treated, right? So in terms of air pollution, these factories use agro process or agro biomass. So that in terms of fossil fuel, it is less, right? That is one. A lot of changes also going around the development, a lot of focus into rural development. I mean, I see the government's initiative to make cooperative Ministry of Cooperation an independent body itself talks about the government's idea about the rural development and socio-economic development, in fact, right? So, and across cooperative models, somewhere there are very, very phenomenal deliverables, right? Now, when, say, for example, the cooperative dairy in Gujarat is doing fantastic, but that is not the case. Although parent body NDDB have developed dairies in other states also, but it's not that great. You get the point. And there, the private dairies had an opportunity. They got found a gap, and there they have penetrated. But here in Gujarat, that is not happening. In fact, of private dairies also, but they're not as competitive as compared to Amul. So that patriotic feeling that Amul has created, that needs to be created by sugar cooperatives. That is what I'm saying. So if you visit Amul, you have seen that the dairy brings in women from villages. Every day there is the Amul visit, and they're showing that this is your dairy. That is not happening. The what do you call the loyalty of dairy farmers with Amul is altogether high compared to loyalty of sugarcane farmers with the respective cooperatives. That is one of the major downfall. And in every talk of Amul, they say that the private dairies cannot manage to take away milk from us, because that is the bonding between the farmer, the milk producers and the dairy. So for all this kind of socio-economic models, the loyalty and patronage definitely matters, right? In the beginning, someone was saying sacrifices. The farmers, the members, the entire ecosystem associated with this kind of a cooperative, irrespective of any model. There is, whenever there is a point to sacrifice, or there is some, to forgive something, it has to. Then only this model it cannot be measured with only economic numbers. That is what I feel.
So if we don't have any other further questions, any other question? So thank you so much, sir, for very informative and rich lecture that you have given us on the sugar cooperatives. And frankly, personally, for me, it was a great learning experience to know about the functioning and the problems and the issues that are confronting the sugar cooperatives at large. And I think now I will give over to Hansa to conclude the proceedings. Thank you. Personal thanks, sir, for immensely rich lecture. Hansa?
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for delivering such a nice address and giving insights. I think that Dr. Nachiket is ready for giving the vote of thanks. Nachiket, please. Nachiket, please unmute yourself.
Space, mute, currently
Yeah, it is
unmuted.
okay.
Hold.
Yeah.
I thank Professor Barad for accepting our invitation for delivering the lecture on sugar cooperatives. As a part of our institute, we felt that sugar and milk cooperatives were one of the backbones of Gujarat's growth and development. And looking at your rich experience in sugar cooperatives, we thought you would give a spectacular lecture, and it was a spectacular lecture regards understanding how the sugar cooperatives of Gujarat have developed over time. Finally, I thank my institute, my supporting staff, library, the IT people, Mr. Umesh, and the participants who have taken immense time, taken out time from their precious time to be a part of this program. We wish to meet again after 3 weeks' time when we'll have our next lecture on a similar theme on the cooperatives. Thanks a lot to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Nidhi, ma'am, thank you.
And
Neeresh Sahab, you stay in Ahmedabad, sir? I mean, if you're there on LinkedIn, let's connect. I would love to learn from you all people.
Currently unmuted.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and Dr. Karan.
thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and good evening. Have a nice day.
Okay, bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.